The UN's nuclear watchdog since the U.S. pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal is getting underway today. The International Atomic Energy Agency is meeting in Vienna for the next 5 days. Speaking today, the head of the watchdog renewed calls for Iran to provide, quote, timely and proactive cooperation in inspections that are part of the deal meant to prevent it from developing nuclear weapons. Donald Trump, of course, pulled the U.S. out of that deal with Iran last month. To talk a bit more about all of this with me now, I'm joined on the set by Schams EL GHONEIMI. Thank you for joining us. You are a political analyst and a former foreign policy advisor at the European Parliament. It seems going into this meeting today that Europe is already stuck. Can this nuclear deal with Iran stay in place without the U.S.?
Well, if you think about the trade aspect of it, I would say definitely yes. From the way it looks, Iran trades with the EU 125 times more than it trades with the US. The US trades $250 million a year with Iran. The EU trades $18 billion a year with Iran. That is a very big difference. Second, politically, obviously the EU is closer to the US than to Iran, but nowadays Trump is not trusted by anyone. And that includes every single member state of the EU. That is why the EU as such, so the 28 member states of the EU, have repeated that they will commit still to the Iran deal because Iran has respected everything that it had to respect so far. The IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, has confirmed that Iran has done all of its homework. Therefore, we have to also keep our words, not just to protect European business, which is much bigger than the American business, but also because security-wise, we're talking about nuclear proliferation if the deal goes. So we have no other choice. The EU has therefore tried to have a plan B, unlike Trump. And our plan B at the European level is to protect European companies from US sanctions by activating an EU law that will prevent European companies from being sanctioned legally in the EU, so providing a legal protection. Second, providing European subsidies to support, to reimburse, to compensate European companies that have been unjustly impacted by US excessive extraterritorial sanctions. And third, by trying, but we're not there yet, trying to have European companies solely rely on non-US dollar labeled transactions. For example, the euro, which is the second biggest currency on earth. So the EU is definitely trying. It has all of my trust because the EU has been the only international organization able to find an agreement with Iranians. The US has not managed to do that. We in the European Parliament hosted the Minister of Foreign Affairs of both Iran and Saudi Arabia. We talked to all counterparts in the region, and therefore we managed to find an agreement which Obama, under the US administration, signed, which the US had committed to. And that is why Macron and Merkel and many others are saying it makes absolutely no sense to denounce an agreement that is against nuclear proliferation with no plan B.
So what concretely will happen over these next 5 days with the IAEA? What can it concretely do to help to move forward?
Well, the IAEA, just like it did on the very onset of the Iraq War, was to remind the international community of the facts. There are no nuclear weapons in Iraq, for example, in 2003. No weapons of mass destruction. That was its job. It's done its job. This is the world's most recognized, established, scientifically approved international organization. What else can you trust? Trump? Not sure. It's done its job. The IAEA has repeated, yes, Iran has done its homework until now. The controls are ongoing, and we have worked a lot on this for years and years to negotiate a very effective agreement. So what can we do now? Well, the EU can try and stick together, try and reason the Trump administration, try and find some exceptions so that European companies such as Airbus do not lose too much money. European companies like Airbus have invested $18 billion in the past 3 years in Iran. Peugeot, Renault, Daimler, Siemens from Germany have also invested a lot in Iran. And it doesn't make any sense to sanction these companies that have invested so much because they legitimately expected that the Iran deal would be approved by everyone.
So in your opinion, you think that this deal can move ahead without the United States?
Well, the question is, can any international deal move ahead without the United States? And I would say yes. We did this with Cuba when the US prevented European companies from investing in Cuba. Well, the EU made some new laws to protect European companies. And likewise, a lot of international obligations are not ratified by the US, such as the International Convention on Protection of the Child, for example, is not ratified by the US. The US is one of those rogue states that believe that it is above international law because it doesn't need to enforce international law. So, of course, there will be retaliations against European companies, perhaps. And, of course, the EU is, first off, trying to mitigate this impact on European companies working in the US. But we shouldn't understand this. We shouldn't believe that the EU is just going to shy away and go and have no word on Trump's madness, because Trump's madness is not just, the EU should stop working with Iran. Trump's madness is also saying we should let Iran restart its military nuclear program, because this is exactly what it means. Iran has committed, in return for no sanctions, it has committed to ending the nuclear proliferation program. If Trump is now saying we're now pulling off, well, then obviously you'll get what we were negotiating for at the start. It is completely irresponsible. It is dangerous. And that is why Federica Mogherini, the High Representative for the EU, has spoken on behalf of the EU and said this is absolutely amateurish, and we need to get back into serious diplomatic work here.
Schams, thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us. Schams El GHONEIMI, their political analyst, talking there about that meeting.